be Philippians chapter 2.
Verse?
Just 14 and 15 is the main one.
This is one for you, Jim. Oh, man. Do everything without grumbling.
This verse 14, or 13, however you want to say it, is one that I remind myself of frequently, and we'll get to the whys and all that. It's one of the few verses that I would call oddball verse. People don't quote it. You got John 3:16, everybody knows that. You've got Philippians 4:13, people know that. Even 3:14 is popular. But this one is one of those that you don't hear. I don't think I've ever heard it used in sermon at all. But it's a very important one. And I'm reading out the Home Christian Standard Bible, which I think I'm the only one here that has that, so it's going to sound a little different than what you all have. But it's, do everything without grumbling and arguing, so that you may be blameless to your children of God, who are faultless in a crooked, perverted generation, among whom you shine like stars in the world. Like I said, 14 is the main one. And now I know we can talk a whole lot about that, and I intend to let you all talk about it so that you don't have to listen to me. But not grumbling is extremely hard. You go on Facebook, 5 out of 10 posts, they're arguing about something, or they're fussing about this or that, and there's one particular local page from Meade County, 80% of the posts on there are grumbling. You look at the news, you've got protests going on, you've got boycotts going on.
That's because negativity sells. Everybody wants to hear something bad.
And misery loves company. So if I'm upset, I want you to be upset with me.
100%.
However, we're not supposed to grumble. And that's easier said than done. I'm not going to sit here and say that I never grumble. I chastise myself when I realize I am. But I still get upset because, well, I'm human. I'm going to mess up. We all are. But what are your all's thoughts? I mean, we all face times that we want to fuss about something. Is there a good time to fuss? I don't have a list of questions. I'm sorry, because I only have about 15 minutes to get ready for this.
Is there a good time to fuss?
Is there ever a good time we should fuss? Is there something worth fussing about? I guess maybe is a better way to put it.
I mean, I wouldn't say that we fuss about it, but the only thing that we can possibly grumble about is people who are against the church. Like all these protesters out there, like the Methodist Church just allowed, homosexual clergy or transgender clergy or whatever. And, there's a lot of people against that, but if that's their salvation, then that's what the Lord wants. It's not for us to sit there and judge them or anything like that. With isn't it the Methodist Church?
No, after that, you said something about salvation.
You said that's their salvation, but I didn't get exactly what you were.
You said if that's their salvation?
No, is that how they hear about salvation? Is that what you?
Oh, yeah. If going to a church like that is how they gain salvation.
So you're talking about if, like a transgender, if getting them into the church.
If they're preaching the proper word and they're getting salvation through that, then it doesn't really necessarily matter who or why or how they're gaining God's word.
Oh, the main part, I do agree with you on that, but we still have to be careful because, we can do the right thing for the wrong reason. But I understand what you're saying. But because there are, and I can't give you the exact passage, but I can tell you that there was, the disciple came to complain to Jesus about people that were preaching, but they weren't Jesus. And Jesus said, whoever is not against us as for us. So you do have a precedent there, but that's going to be a debate that is probably not for tonight. 'Cause
It does say that homosexuality is a sin, so I'm not, condoning that aspect of it.
Well, that's what we're trying to seek clarification on.
Sorry, if I made that,
That's
if I made that confusing, I'm sorry. It made more sense in my head than it did when I said
why I brought up
it.
that question,
Really, I'm familiar with it making more sense in my head and it comes out of my mouth and that's no sense whatsoever.
Glad I'm not the only one. But it's not for us to really judge how they're gaining salvation. As long as it's the true salvation is what they're gaining.
But that's the problem. In a lot of the churches, it even says in the Bible, that people are just gonna tickle their ears. They wanna go to some place where it's gonna make them feel good, make them be taught what they've already got set in their head. They want somebody to agree with them. So this fine line, what's actually a true God-worshiping church versus a moneymaker versus,
What's here in the Bible can't be mistaken. So as long as
No,
that's
but it can be taken out of context in a lot of ways. And people can, they can read a verse and say, well, this is what it means, this is what it means. No, it don't either, So it can be taken out of context. They can, instead of reading the context of it, they'll take one verse out of it and say, this says whatever it says. But, you gotta read above it and below it, you've gotta read it what's in context. So that's a fine line that can be crossed there. I understand what you're saying, but just because they're preaching their version of salvation is the true salvation, where there's a lot of preachers out there that's not even mentioning Jesus Christ in their sermons and stuff. There's a lot of them out there that's just
sheltered.
well, radicals. But there's a lot of misguidance out there, and a lot of them is not preaching the true word, and they've pretty much got their own Bibles and stuff. That's why I get weary when somebody comes up with a new Bible. They got the AI Bible now. Oh yeah, they've already got a computer generated AI, artificial intelligence Bible. That's already out. People are flocking to that, because it's saying exactly what they want it to say.
Right.
So there's you gotta watch that. There's a line. That's my beliefs.
No, I totally agree with that, and that's why I'm glad that we have people that can educate me more, because like I said,
I'm no educator, I just say what I see.
I haven't, I don't watch the news, I don't read the newspaper, I don't get on Facebook and see all that other stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm getting from hearsay from other people, like, the homosexual clergy in the Methodist Church. That's just something that I've heard people talking about. I've never done any research to it or anything like that. But, I've been confirmed that, yes, it's true by multiple people. So therefore, that's all I know, is that part of it's true. But, Methodists have been, they're part of Christianity.
But there's a lot of them that they're breaking up. You got some Methodist churches and some Methodist churches that are breaking up because one is creating their own new religion, while you got the other ones that are sticking to, truth, per se. So it's like, what Methodist church you going to? It's like there's some Baptist church out there that's not preaching the true word. I hate to say it, but it's true.
Like when we were looking for a pastor over at Cold Springs, that was one of the things that we prayed for the most when we were looking for a pastor, was to not send us a wolf in sheep's clothing, somebody who was going to come in and preach the true word, instead of somebody who was going to come in and, fill us with false hope and tell us what we wanted to hear, and then start preaching things that weren't true. So, I can see how it would happen just about anywhere. But as long as people are gaining true salvation, that's what I would argue for.
But that statement, what he meant, what he said about, if they're not for us or against us, there's a lot of deception out there in that too, that, they may be preaching that style, but they're not preaching the truth.
Well, the way I understand that particular passage, they were preaching the truth, or at least part of it.
Yeah, that was the.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I just wanted to clarify my spot because it's easy for me to get my foot in my mouth It doesn't taste that good, so I try not to do that. But to build off of what you have been talking about, you pointing at a problem sounds like you're grumbling a lot. You know, years ago, there was a story that in California, the teachers were not allowed to tell kids they got a problem wrong. They were supposed to say, well, that's one way of doing that. They couldn't say they were wrong. And there have been instances that school districts have banned reading because they don't want to hurt kids' feelings. But there comes a time that you actually have to tell someone you're wrong. It's not grumbling. I mean, it's going to sound like it. You can sound like you're just being mean about it. But you're trying to correct them so that they're not in the wrong way, trying to get them better. Now, I don't want someone to be exactly like me. I'd rather be a whole lot better. The fact that I'm standing here, even though it's small with people, I can't stand still because I'm nervous. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I'd really not be talking at all. That's why I like being in the back where I can't be seen. But at some point, I'm going to have to correct somebody in my life. And it's not because I'm trying to be mean. It's not trying to tell them they're wrong just for the sake of telling them they're wrong. I want them to be better. That should be our goal. We don't want them to be living in sin. We don't want them to stay where they are. One more kind of rabbit chasing, and know that y'all talk more. We all know the song "Just as I Am," at least we know of it. And there's a lot of people that use that line, God's going to take me the way I am. He will, but He's not going to leave me that way. And they forget about that part. They think I can continue with my sin because God's going to be okay with it, and that's all that I have to admit. But He'll take you as you are, but He's not going to leave you that way. Okay. I think I've been on the soapbox long enough. Any other comments about the grumbling? Or we could probably talk a whole lot about grumbling. I want to get conversation started, but we've got to cover all of it.
The only other thing that I grumble about, and I know I do it on a daily basis, is my kids not listening and behaving and doing what they're supposed to. And as a parent, you set a standard for your children. I mean, you teach them right from wrong from an early age. You expect them to do this, like they're given, like take Junior for example, he knows what chores are needed to be done. Why do I have to come home and constantly ask him, hey, did you do this, hey, did you do that? You know, I kind of grumble over that. I don't really argue with him about it because it's going to be done because I said it's going to be done. There's no arguing to be had. And like, you know, when they say, oh, well, can we play our Switch? No. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you about it. I said no, that's it.
I totally agree with you. But also part of me sitting here like, I think God does the same thing with me. Like He's like, did you do what I asked you to do yet? And I'm like, no, wait, I don't want to do it right now. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't want to do it. I'll do it tomorrow. And He's like, no, I asked you to do that. Like, you know, to maybe reaching out to somebody or, you know, like if I see something. So I totally get the parent point of view, but then also I'm like, God, I think that's how God feels with me sometimes.
Well, we're children of God.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We are the children in that.
So I'm sure that He probably sometimes is like, why haven't you done what I asked you to do already?
As what's her name? Elaine's sister. God's going to thunk us on the head at some point.
Yeah.
You know, just like we want to sit there and thunk our kids on the head because they ain't listening. You know, we do the same thing. I wasn't trying to, you know, make it sound like I do no wrong because I definitely
No, I get that, and I get I do understand the parent side too. And then I'm like, but that would be a perfectly great kids lesson. Is, you know, like, God held us to the
Well, and we're taught. As soon as we become baptized, we're born again, and we're taught from that point the way God really wants us to be. We're taught before that, we just aren't really listening.
Right.
But after that, we should have our ears wide open. Our hearts should be wide open. We have no reason not to, except for our own, what's that word? Pride.
And I think
It gets in the way too often, whether we want it to or not.
the further we get in our the less grumbling we do.
Or the opposite of grumbling, thankfulness.
Yeah, and so I do find, we all have those days, but I think the more you get into your journey with God and the closer you get to Him, you tend to be more thankful and to find those, ways to thank you, Lord, for this, rather than complain about it.
Kind of like waking up in the morning, we've got two options. You can either sit there and, I gotta get up, why is it so dang early? Or you could wake up and you could say, Lord, thank you for allowing me to have this day. You get two choices right then and there from the get-go every day. Which one do you choose? And I've said it plenty of times. I'm about halfway to work, going down 228 before it finally kicks me in the head. And I'm like, you know what? I do need to thank the Lord for everything He's done and thank Him for this day. Because without Him, I wouldn't have it. I might not have been so happy getting the kids ready because they want to throw a fuss. And why do we got to brush our teeth early? Well, come on now.
The way I differentiate between grumbling that as we see, as working with and trying to fix something. Grumbling, you don't want to fix. You want to be upset. There's no stable. This is probably from 2000. I think Terry Clark saying it. I just want to be mad for a while.
Yeah.
That's what grumbling is. We don't want the problem solved. We want people to know we're upset about it.
Do you think it's a state of mind, as you choose to be that way?
I would say it's or state of spirit. If you want to really.
State of spirit. I like that.
So like not having your electric on yet, you'd be sitting there grumbling about it a whole lot. Or you could just put it in God's hands and it'll get fixed when God wants it to.
I used to make a lot of notes about lessons because I don't go teach you, and I would try to have lessons ready in case I called. And this, I didn't have this verse, but the topic was there. And I was looking up different things about grumbling. And one of the words we always use is gripe. But the old use of gripe is actually stomach discomfort. And that's what you're going to end up with if all you do is complain. I mean, it's going to mess with your stomach and the rest of your body. You're going to feel terrible and you're going to be terrible, essentially. Grumbling doesn't do anything useful.
The word gripe made me think of like when the kids were little
Yeah.
and they had an upset stomach, you get the gripe water.
That's where it traces from. It's one of the words that we kind of reallocated in the different usage. But I asked earlier if there's ever time worth grumbling it. And the sense that I use where you don't expect to change, there isn't that I know. But again, there's times, Jesus flipped over tables. I'm pretty sure he was not smiling when he did it. I'm pretty sure he was upset. But he was upset because
It was a righteous anger. It was a righteous anger.
yes, that's what I was getting for. There is a righteous anger and there's an anger of pride. And the pride anger is not what we need to strive for. That's what causes grumbling. That's what causes road rage. All of that. The righteous anger is because someone's been wrong. The most righteous anger is because someone has spoken out against God. And He doesn't need us to defend. It's not like we're able to do that anyway. But we are still to point out that's the problem. If someone comes in here and tells us that we're a bunch of hypocrites, we could get upset. Or we've actually admit that we are and say, well, we're trying anyway. And it's through God's grace that we're getting better. And we're sorry that we've done something that you see us that way. 9 times out of 10, it's not us that they're complaining about, it's somebody else. But because that other person called themselves a Christian, we have to answer for it as well. And I know I'm jumping around to a whole bunch of different verses. But Paul said, Peter, so we need to be ready to give a defense for the hope we have. We're going to have to explain ourselves to people. It's not necessarily going to be fun. But, if we go around in a sense of joy, some of us are better at showing joy than others. I have a face that does not look like I'm joyful. It's not that I'm not. It's just my face does what it wants to, and it may or may not reflect what's on my mind. I can't help that. It doesn't mean I'm not happy, it doesn't mean I'm not joyful, it just means that I may be lost in thought. And
I can relate to that because my wife has the same face.
so just because I'm back there trying to figure out where the notes I'm supposed to be turning to, does not mean I'm upset. I mean, I thrive on that kind of stuff. I'm in my element trying to get everything lined
It's
out.
almost, you're in the zone
And
that's
just,
what-
yeah, if I had nothing to do, then I'd have a hard time paying attention. Because my mind has to be active on something, and it needs to be active on something useful. So following along the notes and knowing, what clips I want to cut out of the sermon video to use for reels and things like that. That helps me stay focused on the
Coach, you brought up something, and it goes along with, stuff you was talking about in the church. And, I was trying to explain to Ron there, it was, I think it was last week, I hauled a female inmate from Louisville down to Meade. And every time I haul somebody, I try to get into the conversation, they go to church, I kind of lead into it. I don't say, hey, are you saved, I lead into it. And I got the opportunity to talk with her about church. She said, well, she don't really go to church anymore. She said that she went to a Baptist church. I forget where she said she went to, but she went to a Baptist church, and I think because she had a couple tattoos, looked the way she did or whatever, they didn't want her in there. The way she was dressed, the way they was talking about hypocrisy, but I don't know if it was so much that is status quo or something. They didn't want somebody like that. So she was complaining about how she went to this Baptist church, and one, they didn't want to let her in there. And two, when she did come in and sit down, everybody's looking at her and stuff like that. And so that's why I was going on, with Rob, even in the Baptist church, that's the first time I heard about that. Even in the Baptist church, there's, not every Baptist church is full of what they're supposed to be. They're full of something else. So, I mean, that's just what you was talking about.
That's why we have to stay well armed with.
And I invited her to our church. I mean, when she gets out, I invited her here. I said, look, when I first come in here, before I come to this church, I went to 2 other churches. And normally whenever I move somewhere, which I hope this is the last time, I move somewhere, I'll go to a church and I'll spend a couple Sundays with them, and then I'll go to another church. So this was the last one that I went to, and I spent a couple Sundays here, and the people here, it's like everybody was genuine. Just everybody cared. Of course, everybody knew everybody, but it was not related, but still, they seemed like they was genuine. So, and that's why I kept coming here, and it took me, I don't know, as the saying goes, a month of Sundays to, kind of make sure this is where it's going to be. And me and Colton, we've been here ever since, and because I went to other churches, and things didn't feel right, or it wasn't so much the preaching, but it just didn't feel right, and there's different people, different ways of being.
Take Cold Spring, for example. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that church, but I knew it wasn't where we needed to be when the whole transition and all that was going on.
I went to Cold Spring before I come here. The first Sunday was like,
but
I'll give it another shot. The second Sunday, you had 2 girls up there. Of course, it's been years ago. I don't know if they got down, but they had 2 girls up there leading. They was the choir, they lead, and they sang Amazing Grace, or they had the attendants sing Amazing Grace to the tune of House of the Rising Sun. And I said, that's it, we're done. And I didn't go back. And the congregation was singing with them. Of course, it took them a minute to catch up with them to sing it that way. And I'm sitting there back there going, that ain't right. So that's why we didn't go back there. That's why then we come here. So maybe they're okay now. I don't know. This has been, what,
Well, I
back
mean,
in six,
There's
7
still a lot of
years we've been
people
coming here.
that, you know, I didn't always see eye to eye with, but at the same time, I had no complaints or problems with the church as a whole. But when they were going through their transition, my 2 children were the only ones there, and they were being forced to either sit in church, and I was constantly getting on, I'm not getting anything out of it, and they're not paying attention. We were literally just going to church just to go through the motions, to say we went to church that Sunday. There was nothing really more to it that any of us were really getting out of.
I truly enjoy coming here. It's just,
But when we came here, the kids were engaged, the kids enjoyed it, we were welcomed in like family with everybody. I mean, I haven't had anything, like, if I asked anybody for something, I'm sure they would try their best to help me out. And that's that genuine aspect that you were talking about. And there was a lot of that over at Cold Spring too, but it just, when you know, like, you get that feeling that we need to make a change. And like I said, there's just some good churches out there that just are struggling. But we got a lot of churches on our prayer list too.
You always talk about churches. I got chastised as there was another song, 2006. It's somewhat old, it's almost 20 years old. But it's by Paul Agnew, and it's called My Jesus. And one line in there says, he wouldn't be accepted in my church because of blood and dirt on his feet might stain the carpet.
say that again?
He's not the real, how Jesus was. He said that, I don't think my Jesus would be accepted in my church because of the blood and dirt on his feet might stain the carpet. There are churches that if Jesus walked in the way he was on earth, he would be turned aside because of, he wasn't dressed right, he was dirty, because they walked everywhere. And that's
He doesn't portray that image that.
yeah. And that's what the point of the song was. We've got this whole Americanized version of Jesus. You look at all the pictures, he's clean, he's shaved, his hair is, long, but it's neatly combed. His clothes are clean. And that's how we do all the pictures. We leave out the part of how he suffered. And, if we were to go through the scourging, the being spit on and slapped, and there's only a few parts that we can actually imagine. We've been hit before. We've been stuck by thorns, but not across the forehead and have it jammed down into our head.
Ear pulled out,
Yeah.
back laid open.
He never complained. He could have called thousands upon thousands of angels to take him out from the cross, but he took that pain. And we get upset because the traffic light changed before we got ready to go. And that's where the grumbling is. And the second verse here, verse 15, that tells why we're not supposed to turn. How can we be a witness to people if all we're doing is complaining? We go up and let's say that we're in Kroger and someone cuts in front of us and we just yell at them and tell them they're stupid. Oh, by the way, why don't you come to church with me? Think how well that would work. Or if you got a bumper sticker that tells your church on your car and you cut someone off, you're going to realize that I have a lot of different references that I do. I have a book, it's called How to Be a Perfect Christian, and it's a satire book. And one part in there says, make sure that you cut people off so they can read a bumper sticker from your church on your car.
I'd like to borrow that book from you.
I bring it to you. And again, you have to read it. It's a satire. It's put out by Babylon B. If you have not heard that, it's a satire site that specializes in pointing out some long-held traditions in the church and how we've got come off the wrong track. But we can't think just because we're saved, we don't have to care what other people think. I've had a discussion with people. Now, I don't care if they don't like the way I'm dressed. That doesn't bother me. But if they think I'm a jerk, I'm not going to be able to witness to them. That's fact that I may look like I'm upset when I'm not. I don't look approachable, I admit that. If you see me with my arms crossed in the back, it's because my hands are cold. Has nothing to do with me being not a people person. It's just my hands get cold really easily, and they either go in my pockets or I have to cross my arms to get them out. But I come across as very unapproachable. So I have to, well, I just have to be careful with that. And there are other people that they walk up to and never met a stranger. There's a lot of people in this church that are like, they can talk to anybody, anywhere. I have to plan out what I'm going to say. Even when I'm going to talk about the weather, I've got 5 minutes of talking and then that's it. Either you cover your conversation or I'm going to quit talking. So,
Can't make it 5 minutes.
well, that's roughly, it kind of depends on which forecast I've seen. Otherwise, it's kind of cold out there, isn't it? And then that's all.
I can kind of relate a little bit to that because, I mean, Scott said it before, I'm pretty sure Jim's brought it up. I know it's true for me, and I guarantee it's true for everybody else in here if we want to accept it. The people we are here at church isn't necessarily the people we are outside the church. And that's what's really kind of heartbreaking is, like, if you're in church here, you know you're not supposed to cuss, you're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that. There's a lot of things that you do to be proper at church, to give that representation. And then you just turn right around and you walk outside and you start cussing at your kids or, you know, putting your hands on them. Are you really being a true Christian? You know, and that's where a lot of the hypocrisy comes in, that people think, oh, well, they say that they're a Christian, but I've seen them do this. And then a bunch of fingers get pointed at us like we're the bad person or we're not doing the right thing. And that's something that I struggle with. And if anybody wants to be honest with themselves, I know we all do.
I'm going to think I'm a social misfit wherever we go. So in church, I'm still socially in there.
If I see you out and about, I'll shake your hand and say hi to you.
Well, just expect me to stumble over what I'm going to say like I just did.
And that's all.
Because that's just how I am.
But see, as a church, I know this church specifically, we're accepting. Just like Brother Bobby said, I don't care. Now, granted, if you show up to that door butt naked, we're going to find something to put on you, but we still going to accept you. You know, it don't matter. I mean, heck, I'm dirty as can be coming in here after work.
The key is that you're here.
Yeah.
We want you to be here, and we're glad you walked in the door. And I do think that we do a decent job of that, I hope. But I read something that said, if you were hurt at church, that wasn't the church, that was a person, that was the people. So, meaning like, don't let that one influence sway your whole
Unless the whole church is that way.
Well, I mean, you know for a fact that that's not a church you need to be at. That doesn't make church itself as an entity bad. That just makes that church or those people not good. I mean, you said something about somebody with tattoos being turned away from the church. Heck, me and Lee were out.
Well, that's what she said, that church that she went to.
If a church turned me away because I had tattoos, then good riddance.
And they're not seeing you as the Christian person, they're seeing your body appearance. That's right, and how would they even know about her, like that girl, about her gifts? Like, what spiritual gifts does she have? They're not even giving her a chance to display those. So I hope that she does come here.
Actually, because I took her back to Louisville, and I'm thinking she's on the list to come back down here tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to get her or somebody else, but she's supposed to come back down here tomorrow for court. Oh, I'm private for court, so maybe I'll get to see her there. Or maybe take her back, I don't know.
I mean, we can do nothing but pray on it.
How many We're getting close to 7. I don't want to cut you off. We want to talk this time, but usually it's getting dark out there and go to school, kids at school.
Guess what? NBA open up.
I think we've got them as long as we can. Sorry, I think.
I was a kid once. I barely remember it. It's been well.
A couple years.
I appreciate you all agreeing to let them stay here. It's nice to be a part of the group, and
Well, and I know for like junior especially, he's gonna end up, I'm gonna break him to stay over here. Real soon. He just doesn't know it yet.
well, we had that conversation on the way here. We come to church not just to play, you know, but
We've talked about it.
I will say, they've heard some of what has been said.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
The biggest one out there is 15 years
And
old.
even if we are planting that seed, we just gotta water it, really.
Well, Philip, it's your
Mentally,
call.
he's got some tough competition.
Yeah.
Mentally, I'm almost there on some kids.
I do like how,
42, and I have trouble.
Hey,
Like I said, that's why.
I do like how these end of 15 though, how, you know, then you will shine among them like the stars in the sky. How if you do the right thing, you will be the light that people look to. And that's one of the things that I ask whenever I pray to God in the mornings. You know, I ask the Lord to let me be a better servant for Him and let me be a light to somebody today. You know, that's what we should all strive for, is to bring people into Christ. Instead of being that person that flips somebody off when they come off or starts yelling or cussing or doing something, you know, obscene. You know, we should be that light that people look at. So then we're less likely to be called those hypocrites and stuff like that.
Okay, well, that's all, because it's not the distracting, it's that I see them trying to pick airplanes and I want to do that too.
Now I want to join.
That inner child's really not that far away.
I always want to see if I can make one go farther. So, before I get totally distracted, we'll close in prayer and then I'll see you on a piece of paper. Father, we thank you for allowing us to be here to have time to study your word and to talk with one another, to go through life together and to help each other to be better. We ask that you guide us, show us how we can help others that we need. Please keep us safe for the rest of this week. We ask this in Jesus' name.